Gabriel Martinez joins us today to talk about the Ave Maria Economics Course, which is an initiative that brings Catholic social teaching into conversation with modern economic principles. Dr. Martinez, welcome to the living room, and this is the day. It's great to have you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
And it is for us, too. What makes this course different from just, say, a typical economics course?
Well, a couple of things. One is that I take 3 semesters worth of material and I put it there so it's easy to do in 7 lectures. Normally courses are going to talk either about Catholic social teaching, or they'll talk about economics, or they'll talk about political theory or something like that. And in my course, what I do is that I help people understand the basic economic way of thinking, the basic principles of economics, and the basic principles of Catholic social teaching. Human dignity and the common good and subsidiarity and solidarity, etc. And then with all of these things, we answer the question, what kind of society should we want to live in, right? What is the place for the free market? What is the place for the government? And what is the right answer from your point of view as a citizen, as a Catholic?
What inspired the creation of this course, and what needs were you hoping it would address?
Ave Maria University has, through a generosity of some donors, there's a series of courses called the pursuitofwisdom.org. Mm-hmm. So if you are interested in learning about theology and philosophy, if you're interested in learning about economics or AI or environmental science, just go to thepursuitofwisdom.org. And what they did is that they asked many of our professors to put together their wisdom and their knowledge in an accessible, intelligent way that people from college to retirees would be interested in learning about.
What do you hope people who take the course come away with after completing it?
Well, I think in many cases when we make personal decisions, or when we make decisions as voters, when we make decisions for our families or for our businesses, in many cases people are led by emotion or by their gut or by an anecdote that they heard, or maybe something that they got from AI. And what I want is for people to learn to think better through their lives and through their problems. And this is something that economics does particularly well in teaching a very rigorous, helpful way of thinking, and something that the principles of Catholic social teaching also do extremely well. They normally don't give us a pat, simple answer. They normally give us a series of principles and a structure for thinking through problems in society. So what I want for people to get is better answers in their lives.
Dr. Martinez, I know you've worked very hard to really pack it all into this course, but what are some of the key Catholic social teachings that you explore?
Let me put it like this. And as an archbishop, you probably will understand this very well. If I am trying to explain the Trinity, I could get it extremely simple and just focus on the one God part, or just focus on the 3 persons part. And every time that I try to make it too simple, I end up probably saying something that is wrong. Likewise, people who have learned about something about Catholic social teaching might emphasize the human dignity part and forget about the common good. Or if you know something about subsidiarity, about the importance for the proper level to make the decision, not for the highest level or even for the lowest level, but for the proper level to make the decision, you often end up with somebody who overemphasizes a relatively small part of the truth. Likewise with solidarity, right? This idea that we should feel and think as one human family and to be committed to the common good, and therefore you start forgetting about subsidiarity. It's very important for people to keep all of these concepts in their minds as they make the decision, and not to overemphasize one rather than the other.
When we leave the pews and leave the church, we don't leave our Catholic faith behind. Keeping this in mind, why is it important to bring Catholic social teaching into the conversation when we talk about economics with people?
Because God did not call us from the eyebrows down. Mm-hmm. He did not say, well, follow me, but forget about your brain, right? He did not say, follow me on Sunday mornings, and the rest of the week, right, Vatican II, in Gaudium Spes, says very explicitly the main problem in today's life, in our society, the main problem is a divided life. Is the vision of life between our religious part and say, oh, it's just business, right? This is just the way that I don't care about the ethical part. No, no. Every time that we're making a decision as a human. Every decision that we make is a human decision, and therefore it's a moral decision. It's never merely a technical decision. Then again, it is very frequently a technical decision, right? And this is one of the things that I want to do in this course, to encourage people to realize that being very good with technique and forgetting your piety is no good. And also, as Athenians like to say, piety is no substitute for technique. The fact that you're super pious and you is not enough. You also have to have the right technique.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a great course. Where can people learn more about the Ave Maria Economics course, and how do they get into it and enroll?
Well, go to the internet and go to thepursuitofwisdom.org, thepursuitofwisdom.org, and just sign up. There is no in-app purchases. There's no freemium. There's nothing else to pay. All you have to do is to sign up at thepursuitofwisdom.org.
Wow. Well, Dr. Martinez, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations on the record enrollment at Ave Maria for the past few years. It's great to see so many people interested in going to such a great educational institution. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.